Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about why, if you're using automated bidding on Google search campaigns, why other bid adjustments, such as on time of the day of the week at the state level, age, gender, parental status, all of this stuff matters to make bid adjustments on these other levels if you're using automated bidding. In short, automated bidding actually manages the bids at the keyword level, and if you want to say also the device level, but doesn't manage your bids on all these other levels, as some people think. We know, because at our PPC agency, we've tested this both ways, applying the bid adjustments, not applying them, and got wildly different results, keeping with the other bid adjustments that we can apply. But with that said, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do those bid adjustments, on what levels, how to do them to get the most out of your automated bidding. If you're using manual bidding, this is even more important to do bid adjustments on all the different levels, not just at the keyword level or at the device level, which 95% of people, that's all they're doing. You need to be able to take the data you have, Google's giving you for free or extra, and take advantage of it. Take advantage of all the tools that Google's giving you. Half the value from running PPC ads is just the data you get, because what data you get tells you how to get the profit you want. And as I've said many times on this channel, it's not a matter if you will get a return on Google ads, it's when. Put in enough work, you will get the return. As if you don't have the return you want, you simply cut out what doesn't work and get what doesn't deliver the return you want. Assuming that you actually have a competitive offer in your market that's, as good as your competition. But that aside, I will get into the information that this video is about, i.e. doing bid adjustments on these other levels other than keyword or at the keyword level, and specifically when you're doing automated bidding. So maximize conversions and maximize conversion value, which are two automated bidding strategies, which those are the only two that you should be using, by the way. Those are going to by far get you the most profit if you don't want to manage your bids on your keywords. But specifically with that, you could do much better if, in addition to having the automated bidding, which by the way, and by itself, automated bidding, you'll get much better results nowadays than doing manual bidding or enhanced CPC bidding, i.e. so in other words, maximize conversion value or maximize conversions as a bidding strategy, you'll get easily 2-3 times as much profit from your same exact ad spend using those two automated bidding strategies versus manual versus enhanced CPC bidding. But if you want to get even more profit out of the campaign where you've got automated bidding using maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, depending on if you got an e-commerce business or if you're doing lead generation, you should still eventually import the deals that you close and how much those deals close for, so you can do maximize conversion value and get even more profit out of your automated bidding, as Google has more information to get you the right type of leads you want. But in addition to that, you want to have manual bid adjustments on time of the day of the week, age level, gender level, parental status level, location, which would be at the state level if you're running a national campaign, or at the city level if you're running a local campaign, and also adding other advanced bid adjustments, which if you didn't know, you can adjust your bid whether that guy or gal is in high school or not, or has a college degree or not, or likes to drink coffee or not. This is something that very few people know, and is a way to get almost or basically twice as much money out of your ad spend, or twice as much profit out of your ad spend, taking advantage of being able to decide to spend a little bit more or a little bit less if somebody is in high school or graduated high school, or not, or likes to drink coffee or not, assuming those are relevant to your market. Otherwise, it's kind of a wash. Adjusting your bid, if that person's graduated high school and you're selling something that has nothing to do with that, you're not going to get a gain. But the thing is here, in every market, there's certain traits that customers has that if they have it, they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 50 times more likely to buy. So you want to be able to be eligible to have your ad show up in more auctions if they have that trait than they would otherwise. Because ultimately, still Google's system on Google search it's an auction system. So the more you spend, the more likely you are to show up. Of course, you can show up more often and for less money if you do a good job with your ad click-through rate and your conversion rate on your landing pages. But with that aside, and with that all being the same as your competitors, whoever bids the most is going to get to is where you will show. And you can only bid so much before your profitability is gone. You can only pay so much for a customer before you're not making money after all your expenses, your ad spend, your cost of delivery of that product or service and all that. So you'll only get to show up so many times out of 100, and past that, you're not profitable anymore. Respectively, if your customers, and if they have certain traits they're more likely to buy, those people, by using these manual bid adjustments, you can just say, Google, hey, I want to spend twice as much per click when this guy that searches specifically likes coffee, then you're going to get to show basically every time for the guy who drinks coffee versus not drinks coffee, because you've told Google that information and you're exploiting that information so that you can outbid your competition for the guys that specifically drink coffee. As it comes to these more generic ones, day of week, age, gender, parental status, location itself, those specifically pretty much universally apply, that if you adjust your bids on each one of these levels here so that ultimately Google's algorithm knows how to manage your campaign and just get and deliver a good return for you and decide where you should show up versus where you shouldn't show up, where you should show up over another person versus, where somebody else maybe potentially will show up over you or would show up over you until you gave them a bit more information that gets them ahead of the game and helps them understand that one gender or one age bracket over another actually does better, so it should have you show more often for those specific types of people. Respectively, that's going to get you a lot more profit from what you're doing. There is one more I forgot to list here, which is income level as well. And in a lot of markets, that's a heavy contributor as to how much money you can make. In a lot of markets, I can't even make money if we can't go over the top, or if we can't go after the top 20% of income demographics of the people searching. And so we'll have to adjust our bids at that level to say, ultimately, if they're not in the top 20%, we want to bid this. If they're in the top 20%, we want to bid this. Ultimately, what this comes down to is you use these bid adjustments with a bid adjustment formula. And you can search for bid adjustment formula, but basically what it is that you're doing here, the good way to do it, if you will, that our firm's doing every single time because we've tested different ways of doing this. Ultimately, you're going to use a bid adjustment formula that you can find online, a standard bid adjustment formula, and you're going to bid more or less based upon the average cost per conversion or cost per sale that you're getting now, whether that specific trait gets you above average cost per conversion or below average cost per conversion. Okay? So, in other words, if you find out on male that you convert 20% better than average, then you're going to decide to spend basically 20% more for male. If you find female, it's 20% less than average, you're going to spend 20% less on female. And then with that, you reallocate your budget essentially to the parts of, or the types of users that ultimately pay off better. And so taking parts of the budget that isn't working as well, doubling down on the parts that are, brings the overall potential of your campaign up in terms of what it can deliver. And with automated bidding, and you say you need a 4-to-1 return, it's going to be able to get you more sales at a 4-to-1 return when it ultimately knows male ultimately should actually, you should spend a little bit more for anybody male coming through and a little bit less for anybody female coming through. And that goes for the rest of these level: age, gender, parental status, and so forth. So ultimately, that's the main thing that I'm trying to tell you here, to be able to get essentially double the amount of sales your campaign with the automated bidding would actually generate here for you. So specifically with that, and as it applies to this, as a quick lesson here, and why this is all possible, a lot of people think if you either bid on a keyword or you don't, ultimately Google dissects all the people who search for that keyword. It tries to figure out if your ad should show up for that person or not. And these bid adjustments help guide their algorithm. They do a little bit of this on their own, certainly, but when you can go in there, at least for what we found, if you adjust those you add a manual bid adjustment on these other levels that Google allows you to adjust your so-called bids on, the algorithm figures out better how to deliver you a sale at the cost per lead or cost per sale that you want it, if you will. So anyway, with that said, now Google will tell you that you should remove your device level adjustments when you're doing automated bidding, either maximize conversion value or maximize conversions. That is actually true as long as we found that you have at least 10 plus conversions on each device already at least. So ultimately, some people, and why I say that is some people are going to go and set up a new campaign with the automated bidding right away. In that case, you can do that. That's not totally wrong to do that. Some people would argue with me. We're turning on auto bidding even when we get 5 or 10 conversions already, because automated bidding does so much better than manual bidding anymore that as soon as we can turn it on, the better. And sometimes we've actually turned it on right away if we've already, in this case that we have a campaign with lots and lots and lots of history and we have a new campaign, we can even turn on automated bidding on the new campaign without any conversions on that new campaign, assuming it's in the same, it's basically the same type of service or product as the other products or services, or in that account being promoted, or basically there's one product being promoted and this campaign promotes that same product, but it's a new campaign. We'll just often just turn on automated bidding for that new campaign, since Google kind of can use the same, as we've at least found, kind of use the data from the other campaigns to drive that new campaign that targets similar but different keywords. And so anyway, if you're going to turn on the automated bidding right away, I don't recommend, if it's a brand new campaign with not basically any conversions, that you with Google, because you'll see when you turn on the automated bidding, Google will say it's usually a good idea to remove the bid adjustments on the device level if you have any there. And I say no to that. Don't let Google remove the bid adjustments until you have decent amount of conversion data, because from there they're going to start really dumping a bunch of mobile traffic on you, because less of the people you're competing with want mobile traffic, so that it's unused or leftover inventory that Google just starts loading on you. And if mobile doesn't convert very well, your campaign can go in a major negative ROI for a while until the algorithm figures out that mobile doesn't work. Whereas you can start out conservatively and have mobile, and this is particularly true in e-commerce spaces, you can have the mobile bid adjustment to be negative 70%, so that that doesn't end up happening to you where you're getting loaded up with this mobile traffic that doesn't convert and your campaign loses a bunch of money up front, if you will. And so that would be, it's just a little extra words of caution there. But moving on here, people will say you don't really need bid adjustments if you're using auto bidding, but we 100% know that this is not the case. You do want manual bid adjustments even if you're using these automated bidding strategies, because it'll guide Google better. Their algorithm does not seem to pick up how to adjust the bids on, to have somebody show, have males, see the ads more than, females if males have been converting better. So therefore, you can almost just basically say here, the automated bidding strategies, really, they only just manage the bids on the keyword level. They don't manage on device, a time of the day of the week, and so on and so forth, like you think that they would. With an automated so-called bidding strategy, it manages mainly the keyword bids and then the device bids. But these other bid adjustments, time of the day of the week, and so forth, it doesn't. Therefore, that's why you want to apply the bid adjustments, okay? I'm not going to say it doesn't manage and look at those other data points, age, gender, and so forth at all. It's by our testing, clearly not very well, and maybe not very well until it has a mountain, thousands and thousands of conversions. Whereas you could take a little bit of conversion data, seeing, even if you have 50 conversions, and you can see how male versus female converts, and already from that have a pretty good idea of what you want to be able to spend if it's male versus female, and then right away get a big boost from your campaign because you did that little extra work, looking at the numbers there, doing a bid adjustment, and then capitalizing on your bid adjustment, and Google now steering your campaign in a little bit better direction to get you more conversions at the cost per conversion you've set the target as. And so one thing, and tied to that, by the way, is you got to make sure you have a decent amount of conversions to do a bid adjustment. For that matter, basically I'm going to say you want at least 10 conversions before you do a bid adjustment. Better is 100 conversions on a specific dimension before you do a bid adjustment itself. And we're doing bid adjustments on these different levels about every 90 days. So every 90 days we'll come in, we'll look at the male versus female cost per conversion, use the bid adjustment formula, and then setting a new bid adjustment so that based upon the market at all times, we have the correct bid adjustment for male versus female for the campaign to get us, again, as many conversions as we can get at the cost per conversion we want. And ultimately, until a dimension itself has at least 10, but probably 100 conversions, we don't have a absolute definite rule of this many conversions we'll do it, this many conversions we won't. But it just depends on the situation. Maybe we have to act a little quicker if we're really struggling to get, to where this campaign needs to do better quicker. Otherwise, we're going to run out of runway, run out of money, optimizing this or whatever. We can go and look at 10 conversions being the minimum, but default position is we're trying to have 100 conversions on that dimension, i.e. at the gender level, at the age level, at the location level, before we're going to do a bid adjustment itself. And within that, if we're going to do a bid adjustment on the location level, if it's a national campaign, we'll break out every state. And if a location doesn't have at least 10 conversions, we're not going to do a bid adjustment on that specific location, just to be specific here. So it's on a male female, you may only need 50 conversions overall in the campaign before you can do a solid adjustment. On the location level, you definitely need more than 100 conversions in that campaign overall, because each state, if you're doing a bid adjustment for each state individually, you're not going to have enough data there, if you will, and then basically can only do a bid adjustment on a few of the states that have had enough, had at least 10 conversions in and itself so far, if you get my point. So depending on how certain you want to be about your adjustments, you can require more data. 10 basically on the individual metric that you're adjusting on. 10 conversions, basically, I would just say, to keep it simple, is the bare minimum. If you have the luxury to do 100, that's going to get you a really concrete amount of data to do a bid adjustment on. So anyway, with that said, your ROI results will be at least 50% better if you do these extra bid adjustments on time of the day of the week, age, income level that I didn't write here, gender, parental status, and location, state for each individual state if you're doing a national campaign, or at each city, or at the city level if you're doing a local campaign, given each city within your metroplex area that you're targeting for a local campaign is going to convert so much differently. So you want to reallocate budget again to the cities within your metro area that you cover in your service territory that are producing above average results to get you more conversions at the cost per conversion that you're looking for. So in essence then, your ROI on your campaign should automatically get about 50% better just with these basic adjustments. Or another way you could basically say this is, if you're getting your cost per conversion already, you should at least be able to get 50% better or more overall conversions at your cost per conversion if you just go ahead and every 90 days go in here and do a bid adjustment using that bid adjustment formula I mentioned on each one of these individual levels. If you go ahead and go the extra mile here and you want to double your amount of conversions, you do a bid adjustment on each one of these individual, what they call dimensions in your account, and you go into the advanced adjustments. What are those advanced adjustments? So under the audiences in your search campaign, you can add in there different things, and you can add which all basically work like observances and display campaigns, where you can put in there high school graduate, somebody who likes coffee, somebody who actually is interested in baseball, interested in sports, reads newspapers, all these different interest and affinity options, if you will, can be put in there under the audiences. So in that campaign, you can do a bid adjustment on any one of these levels. So you ultimately, if you wanted to and you didn't know totally what really makes a difference in, as far as being able to decide should you bid more or less if somebody is in one of these interest or affinity groups, you could put 1,000 different audiences in your campaign under the audience menu, and just wait and see which ones actually make a difference. Some, quite a few of them, they have no effect either way. It's kind of a wash. Whether they are high school graduate or not doesn't matter on the cost per conversion. On some of these, if they, like I was giving you in my previous example, if they drink coffee, they're actually twice as likely to, or they convert at, half the cost per conversion, if you will, which generally comes from a doubling conversion rate, which would mean a half cost per conversion versus the average of that campaign. And then you can do a bid adjustment on likes coffee and get more out of that campaign in terms of total conversions at the cost per conversion you want, or you're getting your cost per conversion down. However, whatever your goal is at the time is to, whether that's to get your cost per conversion down or to scale, i.e. more conversions at the same cost per conversion. So with that, then that's in general how these advanced bid adjustments work. You could add a bunch of random affinities and in-market audiences to your audience campaign menu and figure out what to adjust your bids on and go that way. The problem with doing that is it's going to take you a really long time to gather data on each one of those data points and make solid adjustments. And given most things they're not going to push the envelope. They're not going to affect, you're not going to see your cost per conversion that much different than the overall average from the campaign to do a bid adjustment and get a rise in your results from that campaign, because whether or not somebody likes picking their nose or whatever doesn't affect whether they buy golf clubs at a higher rate or a less rate or whatever, because they're just not correlated. So there's a more measured approach that you can go here, which I'm giving you the approach that we're using on our campaigns to be able to get that extra 50% increase in sales or 50% decrease in your cost per conversion, depending on where you're at with running your campaign or running your account. The very first thing I would do is I would add all my remarketing audiences right away. That's a gimme. And you're going to do that on all the levels. So you want to set up a remarketing audience in Google Analytics itself or through Google Ads. Do all visitors that have hit your site in the last, I do this through Google Analytics, which you can do up to 540 days. So if they've been on my site 540 days, I'll set up a remarketing audience just for that. And then I'll set up a remarketing audience for 365 days since they've been on my site. If they've been on my site in the last 365 days, they're in that audience. Then 180 days, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, 7 days, 1 day. If you have enough traffic, you got to have at least 100 visitors on the audience to be able to use it in your campaign like this. But if you have enough traffic, I would do all of those, because there definitely will be a difference in the cost per conversion you get if somebody's been to your site, and in addition to that, been on the site recently or semi-recently or sort of recently or not very recent, but they've been on my site. And that's why you do all those different day cookie window links is what it's really called, but different lengths of time since they've been to your site, so you can adjust your bid on each individual level, because each one's going to convert or have a little bit different impact on your cost per conversion. So with that, I would then adjust my bids once you've got it all set up, and you've ran, because it's not proactive. You're going to have to add these audiences. If you're running search campaigns today, you'll have to set up the remarketing audiences, and then you have to build those audiences up. That's one thing. But you add all those audiences to your search campaign, and then from there, your search campaign has to run for a while to be able to know of the people that now are on your remarketing audiences had time to see your ads, and then you've had time to see if those people would buy or not, to see what the cost per conversion difference is of the people on those remarketing lists compared to the overall campaign whole. But that's the number one thing I always do. Number two, for the advanced bid adjustments, you're going to do the customers/subs. So all the customers, you're going to set up a conversion pixel on Google Analytics, import that to Google Ads. You could set up a conversion pixel on Google Ads too if you want. It's actually better to do, if you're doing e-commerce, to set up the conversion pixel on Google Ads, as we found it catches about upwards of 50% more conversions than Google Analytics purchase tracking itself. But with that said, you'll create an audience of people who have bought. You could go further if you wanted to do this and say bought in the last day, bought last 7 days. If you have a repeat purchase business and you have a high volume business on top of that, your cost per conversion from somebody who's who's clicked on your ads and has bought in the last 7 days will be a lot different than somebody who's clicked on your ad and has bought from you in the last 6 months. Because somebody who's bought more recently and on your site again is probably, if they're in heat, they are in a buying mode, as we call it, and they're just going to convert at a much better rate. So anyway, you could adjust your bids based upon them being a customer or being, how recent of a customer were they. And you could do that on this. I would also set up a separate remarketing audience for people who subscribed to your email list or subscribe to get a discount, or just an email subscriber, so that you can adjust your bid ultimately using the same process. So based upon how well somebody who's a subscriber versus not a subscriber converts. And I would even break that up into subscriber, not purchaser, or not a customer, subscriber and a customer, and do a bid adjustment on each one of those levels, because those are going to have a way different cost per conversion from people who searched and clicked on one of your search ads versus people who, obviously are not a customer, not a subscriber. So there's that. And it would be different than people who obviously just got to the site but aren't a customer yet or aren't a subscriber yet. So you'll get a big gain in your results just by having the remarketing lists all broken out, the customer lists all broken out, subscriber lists broken out. That's the first thing you always do. From there, you'll go under the audience manager and under the tools in the top right hand part of your account. And then from there, you're going to go to your data insights. And from there, you're going to look at the top 10 data insights for the affinity audiences that Google, out of all the affinity audiences that Google has, that they see the people that have been on your site match, as well as the in-market audiences that they see that match up with the in-market audience lists that they have. And of course, you've had to have your conversion pixel set up on your site, but once you've had your conversion pixel set up on your site and you've gotten about 1,000 or more visits to your site, you can see of all the people who have been to your site, the affinity audiences that Google, again, has that you can target as an audience, which ones they match up with. Person, frequent traveler, likes ice cream, whatever, likes go-karting. So that kind of stuff, what they're interested in. And the in-market audience is what they're looking for. They are, they're looking for, just give me a second here. So the in-market, the in-market, I just wanted to look up some examples from the site that we have. They're looking for a car. They're interested in foreign cars. They're interested in home remodeling. These are all things that they're actively planning on purchasing, or looks like they're planning on purchasing. So anyway, with that data, you can now, these are all directly in-market audiences and affinity audiences that you can target through the audience menu, and then ultimately with just like what I was saying before, you can adjust your bid on each one of these levels. So if you find that the people that come to your site are, out of all the different things that they could be looking for, most frequently, they're also looking at foreign cars. You can adjust your bid if they've been looking for foreign cars recently. so based upon them searching for your keyword, you'll actually be willing to bid more if they've been looking at foreign cars recently as well. You can see how this works. So that Google gives you this data for free. Why don't you use it? It'll make sure all the people that all your people that are, all the keywords you're bidding on, you're getting the cream of the crop people. You're showing up almost every time, essentially, for people that have the common traits that match your site that are most common versus the ones that haven't, versus the traits that are least common, if you will, that search for your keywords. Now, that would be the minimum that I would, or that's the minimum you can do here, I should say. What's much better is under your data insights, because you can adjust to the top of the screen what audience of people that you want to look at. You can look at all people who've been to your site. You can actually look at people who've been to your site. You can adjust on any day level that you want. So you can look at people and their most common, what they're looking for and what interest they have, if you will, or what they're interested in, what they're looking to buy in market segments. Affinity segments is what those are called again, what Google calls them here, based upon people who've been to your site the last 30 days, 180 days, whatever time frame that you want, because you could choose the audience of people to look at. So if you have all those remarketing audiences set up from our first step here, you can look at at any one of those individual audiences, what affinity traits that they have and what in-market, what are they in-market audiences, which is, again, what people are looking to potentially buy or shopping for, and do that. So, but the reason why I bring that up is you can look at customers, because you set up a audience to be able to bid more or less, essentially, if they're a customer or not, based upon how much more likely they are to convert if they've already been a customer before. With your bid adjustments there, you can look at your data insights and see what's the most common affinity audiences for a customer, not just somebody who's been to your site, and the most common in-market segments for if they're a customer. And so with that, you might, basically, if you have enough customer data then to be confident in that information Google's giving you, you could just then import to your audience menu on your search campaign those top 10 affinity audiences that match your customer list and the top 10 in-market segments that match your customer list. And it gives you actually 10 affinity audiences, and in-market segments, you also get 10. So you right there can have 20 things to import that all match your current customer list or people who've just been to your site. And frankly, you want to use the customer list because that's, it makes sense. You obviously want to be able to bid more on the people who look like my customers, not just people who've been to my site. But even if you are bidding more or less on people that have been to your site versus not been on your site, that actually helps a lot because as a whole, the people who've been to your site, they're very much different than people who haven't been to your site. If your site, people you're bringing to your site, a lot of them are buyers already. You just don't, you just don't have it racked up enough purchases yet to get them. So it's anyway, it's better than nothing, we'll just say, to have the top 10 affinity segments and in-market segments for a person who's been on your site versus the actual customers you have. And so with that, and you can actually, to speed this process up, you could upload a list of your customers to Google and look at the top 10 affinity segments and in-market segments of your customer list. That way, looking at the last 3 years worth of data, and so that you don't actually have to wait until you've built up enough customers, set up the goal in Google Analytics so that you can look at what the traits are of your customers, and then having to set up the goal and then waiting 6 months to a year to get these insights. You could import the list of the customers you have for the last 3 years and really get a big list to look at. So you have the most accurate data for Google to look at, and then get the affinity segments and the in-market segments from there and have the best information to do your bid adjustments on, with your campaigns. So that's something I would do as well. In addition to that, we have direct affinity and interest itself. So what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, if you sell bowling balls here, you go under the under the display, just set up a display campaign under the targeting options and the display campaign. So you don't have to really run it, but just within there, they have all the potential affinity audiences and the interest, in-market interests or in-market segments that you can target. And if you're selling bowling supplies, I would automatically take all the bowling related ones and add those to my audience menu on my search campaign, so I can do a bid adjustment on each one of those based upon they probably are going to have an impact on my cost per conversion if they've been on those niche related lists, if you will. Once you've done that, you can go with the indirect affinity interests or interests. So, and what that specifically looks like is you find out about your customer types or your customers. Why do they buy specifically? What do they do that makes them a candidate for a customer? People buy your product or service, generally speaking, for a reason. They have a problem. Or obviously there's vice items. People do it to get high. So the problem really would be there that they feel like shit. And that's their problem. So anyway, what leads up to people wanting to buy? To give you an example, we had a client who was that sold granite countertops. And after pressing them, they said their best customers they get are people who are buying the granite countertops to put in new people that are moving into a new home. They're looking at a house, they want to buy it. They got granite countertops in their house now. They want granite countertops in the new house, so they're just going to install those before they move in. And so knowing that, somebody who's looking to move statistically is going to be worth more if they're searching for granite countertop installation on Google than somebody who isn't going to move, because the ticket size and the rate of conversion to a customer after becoming a lead is higher if they're moving into a new house. You see how you follow me now? So you are going to go and talk to your salespeople. You're going to look at your sales inbox, email inbox. You're going to look at your reviews. You're going to find out, you're really going to dig in. What's the things that lead up to a purchase of your product or service? And then take those traits, look in the targeting options that you can use to set up a display campaign, affinity audiences, in-market audiences. There's also lifestyle choice, lifestyle or life events, itself, where they're soon to be married, soon to be moving. There's those as well. And ultimately, there's thousands of different targeting options. There are pre-selected audiences that you can target via the display network. In there, you'll find the ones that are related to people who, the problems that people have or traits people have that are somebody who, would be a better customer, so to say, or likely to be a customer at a high rate as soon as they have these traits, versus somebody who doesn't have those traits. They don't buy at quite the same rate after they become a lead, or in general, they're just, they're not as motivated and don't, after they start tinkering with the idea of buying, they don't buy at the rate as somebody else who has a different problem or buying for a different reason. So, and like I said, with the granite countertop guy, person that's not buying it to get it in a new house, a lot of them are basically looking at it as it'd be nice to have. They're checking on the pricing. Somebody who's going to get it installed in a new house, they're dead set on it already. Yes, they're not always going to buy, but they're going to buy at a higher rate as soon as that idea of granite countertops is in their mind. They're going to buy at a higher rate than the person who initially starts thinking about it but are buying it for their own house. So you do that research on your market, find out the matching audiences, and then add those in your audience menu on your search campaign so you can do bid adjustments on each one of those levels. Taking that a step further, here we're almost done. You can actually, didn't have room to write it here, but I wrote data expansion services like Experian. You could type in data expansion services on Google, and or in short, you could just go to data expansion service Experian, and you could take your customer list, just like Google gives you for free here, where you can upload your customer list of the last 3 years of customers you have to see the top 10 most common affinity audiences and in-market segments that match your customer list, so you can adjust your bids on each one of those levels by importing those targets in your audience menu on your search campaign. by uploading that same 3 years worth of customer data to Experian, which has a massive amount of data as well, arguably more than Google, because essentially Experian, their entire business model is predicated on selling data. They are a data company for that matter, or for all practical purposes. And they will tell you more about your customers that you even know, or that you can even find out by doing your research. So you'll upload your customer list, and these things will be also findable through the data insights that Google gives you here that I talked about before. But they'll say, like, you know, if you're looking at your customers that you're looking for is people who need new foundations, you'll also find those people like playing cards and or playing chess. And you'll say, what the hell? What the hell does that have to do? How is it that somebody who buys a foundation is 3 times more likely to be a person who likes playing chess? But that's the type of insights that you're paying for and that you'll get by going to a company like Experian and giving your customer list to them. That's what they're there for. Data expansion companies, by the way, you can upload your customer list to these companies like Experian, and they'll tell you if you only have their email address, they can get you their cell phone. Just by having their email address, they can tell you what else they like, where they live. That's why they call it data expansion. And what we're doing here in this case is seeing what they're like and what they're interested in, what makes them quirky or unique as it pertains to the list. And so, you know, everybody's going to be interested in something else, but what you're looking for, just like with what Google does in the data insights, what's the most common things that all the people on your customer list have in common? So you can use those, because that's going to move the meter when you add that to your search campaign and, you know, greatly affect, you know, your cost per conversion if somebody is on that particular list of people who like that specific thing or interested in that specific thing, if you get my point. The stuff that has very low correlation with your customers won't be enough to adjust your bid and get an impact on your cost per conversion, whereas something that's highly correlated with your customer list, you know, often will. Not always. You know, all the people on your customer list, they may all most commonly like bowling out of any other hobby, but when you go to adjust your bid on, you know, bowlers that are searching for your foundation repair service, you may find that it gets the same cost per conversion if they're a bowler versus they're not a bowler, or you could see that the bowlers are converting at 50% less than non-bowlers. And so the idea here is you upload all these audiences, and you may have 100 different audiences there when you're all done. 20 of them have such a big impact that you can get 100% increase in your actual sales, or cut your cost per conversion basically in half, because you've done the bid adjustments on these initial primary levels, the parental status, location, gender, and all that, and then you went ahead and added these additional audiences in your campaign and did the advanced bid adjustments on each one of these audiences. So, with that, you instead of getting a 50% increase in your sales at the cost per conversion that you want, 100% increase in your sales at the cost per conversion you want. Or if you're dropping your cost per conversion, before I said, I know I made a technical error there, you can get a 50% increase in your sales if you just do the bid adjustments on these primary levels here that are the default, that are set up by default for you to adjust your bid on each one of these levels. You can get a 50% increase in sales, or you might be able to reduce your cost per conversion by 25%. With that, if you do the bid adjustments on these initial primary dimensions, and you add in these extra audiences and did your bid adjustments there, you can double your sales essentially, or cut your sales cost per sale or cost per conversion in half. So that's about what we've seen that you can expect doing it versus not doing it. And it's enough at our agency that we're going to be wanting to do this every time. The only time that we don't do it is the campaign is really low volume. If we're only getting 100 clicks a month, we may wait a long time before we get into at least these advanced bid adjustments, because it's going to take so long to get enough data. Because again, remember, you have to have minimum of 10, but probably 100 conversions on an individual, basically on one of these audiences, to do a bid adjustment to have what they call statistically significant data. And it's just going to take so long to get it. So we skip it. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's just we don't have enough data to do it. So in that case, we'll just do bid adjustments on these these primary dimensions here, time of the day, day of the week, and so forth. And even within there, we can't do it at the state level very well because each state, there's not enough conversions there. And really, maybe all we can really take advantage of is the gender and parental status and the income level and the age. But the more data you get, the more of these initial primary adjustments that you can make on these primary dimensions at each individual state, at each individual income demographic level, at each city level, and going forward, and with that, at each individual audience level, or each audience itself, on 100 different audiences that you set up in that campaign to adjust your bids on. So, and you can play around with this. This is just my go-to formula that we found works the best. You're getting most of the value you can out of bid adjustments with the minimum amount of time. You could do things such as, if you're selling nationally, do a bid adjustment not just on each state level if you have enough data. You could do it on each of the main top 20 cities by population, or top 50 cities by population, because you'll find definitely data in there. Chicago, for whatever reason, converts at twice the rate that Miami does, and you can adjust your bid on Chicago versus Miami, in addition to adjusting your bid on Illinois versus Florida, and squeeze out a little bit more sales at the cost per conversion you want from that campaign, or just reducing your cost per conversion a little bit more for that campaign to get where you want to be profit-wise, or profit margin-wise. But anyway, you get the general idea. Going full circle here, if you're using automated bidding, you still want to do bid adjustments. When you do the bid adjustments, I gave you the formula that I have here that works the best to get a lot of results, i.e. double the results you would have got otherwise from that campaign, with a reasonable amount of time put in. And with that said, this is all so formulaic. You could set up a AdWords or Google Ads, script to do the bid adjustments for you that way automatically, or, which I don't do much of scripting, because there's always something where, a script, there's some things that you don't want. When you're doing the bid adjustments, you'll say, I don't want to adjust this bid because it seems kind of funny. And with the scripting, you'll never be able to see that. You're better off probably having a human, even though scripting, for the most part, could work for most people. I don't want to say it will work for every single person is all, in every single situation. But you just have a person, you do what I do, you record your screen, you do the bid adjustments one time, and then you have somebody else do the bid adjustments forever after that. You get an offshore contractor. An offshore contractor that works for a few bucks an hour can use your bid adjustment formula and decide what the bid adjustment should be on each one of these levels, time of the day, day of the week, whether they're a customer or not a customer, subscriber or not a subscriber, coffee drinker or not a coffee drinker, and you can just set up the rules. If they had at least 100 conversions, you do a bid adjustment. Using this formula, you don't have to even look at it after that. That's actually, by the way, to finish this video off, the way to get really good results on PPC as the business owner here is to do more than what the competition's willing to do. Because your competition isn't doing the work here that I showed you here, there's a massive opportunity to double your sales than what the average person's going to get without the bid adjustments. They're just going to set the automated bidding strategy up, and they're going to say, oh, whether that's by ignorance or not, this is as good as I can do. You're going to get twice as much as him because you got this information and you acted on it. But with all these different strategies I give you here on this channel, almost all of them are very repeatable. It's not just one time you do something. A lot of things you can do that way that I give you here, but a lot of them takes ongoing work. You don't have to be the one that does the work almost never, because the stuff's so repeatable. It just needs to be consistently done. So you record your screen, you do it once, you have somebody handle it from there, and you just keep setting up and you layer on extra levels of sophistication to what you're doing, and therefore your campaigns just get to be more and more and more and more efficient all the time. you can stack up gains on top of gains on top of gains and only focus on one strategy at a time. Once you've figured out the strategy, mastered it, somebody else does it, you work on a new strategy that'll get you another little bit of extra efficiency. And that's what I would recommend to you, because nobody has time to do all this stuff long term nor wants to. So, but you don't have to with screen recording. And I give you the strategies here on this channel so you can see the strategy, do it once, hand it off, do the next strategy. And that's what I would recommend to you. That's what I would do, again, if I was in your position. But there's lots of situations, like I said, where there's individual little things that if you just keep up with it, because nobody wants to do that, you can get a lot of results. You don't have to be the one who does the work. You just have to do it once and somebody else can do it. And ultimately, your cost of maintaining that can be $10 a month to an offshore contractor somewhere. And the results you get is an extra $1,000 a month in sales. So it's crazy not to use that formula, so to say, when it's so anybody can go record their screen, record a strategy that works that I'm giving to here to you on a silver platter, and that somebody else can handle once you've done set it up. But anyway, I'll leave it with that. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you would give it a like so we can help other people find this video and get it around. Also, you should consider subscribing to this channel, because I have a lot of other strategies like I gave you here today that can make you a bunch of extra money, in which we're testing out our agency, finding what works, and as soon as I find a working strategy, we give it to you here on this channel, to where you don't have to do any testing on your own virtually. You can basically, or at least on the bigger stuff, know what works before you even try it. So and with that, this is the best information that I know of on YouTube as far as actual actionable advice on making money with PPC, with Google ads, Facebook ads. If you know of a better source, let me know, because I'd like to, of course, follow it. But so with that said, you don't want to miss what I'm going to share and what I have shared. We also give you the stuff to stay away from, the stuff that doesn't work. And you don't have to waste and piss a bunch of money away on stuff that simply, you don't have to. So anyway, with that said, you do yourself a favor. You do yourself a big favor by subscribing to this channel and learning the stuff that we figured out over the last 15 years, basically. If you have any questions about anything I covered today, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel. Beyond that, if you want some extra advice on how to do things in terms of campaign setup on a more step-by-step or individualized basis, you can go to my blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, where I have personally written the ways that we set up our PPC campaigns here. And if you want to then replicate and get a little bit more detail on how to do certain things, you can find extra information there to help yourself out. Make a pile of money with PPC. So one final thing I want to mention before I end this video was we also, and I have been mentioning on my last few videos, we have a brand new program where we're offering turnkey PPC campaigns, i.e. we get great results in one market, we're generating millions of dollars profitably in sales in one market, set up a campaign, built it up over years, it generates several $million a year in sales with a 6% marketing cost. You want to set up a similar business in your area or market, we can give you the exact same campaign they're using in your own market and have it work basically right away. Without all the work and testing and BS that we had to go through to get it working in one market, you get it working in your market. And therefore, you would basically have a business in a box, because at that point, you could hire or basically just go to another company, outsource all your work to them, you own a website and a PPC campaign, and that's your business, so to say. So if you're looking for an opportunity like that, get a hold of us, because that's exactly what we're offering. We also have product campaigns where a client doesn't basically run those campaigns anymore, whereas if you wanted to run those, a similar campaign and get into e-commerce, we have campaigns that basically out of the box work for e-commerce that we've already optimized heavily and know the results on before you even start. We also, of course, maybe have a campaign set up in your market already. So instead of beating your head against the wall and having to watch all these videos here to figure out how to make millions at PPC, you can just turn and take our exact campaign that we built for the market already, which we've worked in hundreds of markets now for your exact for your business, and use it, the exact same way, and know what the results are ahead of time. So anyway, if you're interested in that type of opportunity, reach out to our firm at Guaranteed PPC. We can talk about what markets we have campaigns set up in, and of course what kind of results you can get before even using the campaigns and landing pages and tracking and everything that we set up for the other company to get the similar results for yourself. It's all included, and you can have a turnkey version of what's already worked. But I'll leave it with that. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next video where we have another great strategy for you to use and make some more money with PPC. See you there.